Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Cancer Support Community Central Ohio's Lunch and Learn. We're very excited that our own Izzy Hutchinson is with us today for this presentation. We are recording this. Just to let you know, we will be uploading it to our YouTube channel later this afternoon. Izzy says if you have questions as she's going through the presentation, please go ahead and either unmute yourself at home and ask those questions or put them in the chat and we will get to them. So you don't have to hold your questions until the very end. Izzy, thank you so very much for sharing your time and talent and expertise with us and presenting spirituality and cancer.
All right. Thank you, Darlene, for that lovely introduction. If folks can't hear me, please just chime in the chat and we'll figure that out. But I'm just going to go ahead and get started. So I am presenting on spirituality and cancer today. As Darlene said, my name is Izzy. I am our Operations and Outreach Manager here at Cancer Support Community. And you might be wondering, well, why are you speaking on spirituality and cancer then? You just work here. I get it. But I'm also a theologian with the Chicago Theological Seminary, which is a really fancy way of saying that I study theology. I study religious belief and religious texts. And so that's where some of my expertise comes from. Okay, so we're going to open the presentation with a quick exercise. It is just as much for you all as it is for me because I don't present very often. So we're gonna mellow down a bit with some box breathing. So for those of you who don't know, box breathing is a sort of meditative, relaxing type of breathing. And I'm going to walk you all through it with me. So we're going to breathe in for 4 seconds. So in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, breathe out, 2, 3, 4, and hold, 2, 3, 4. We'll do it one more time. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, and hold, 2, 3, 4. Now you can breathe normally. So hopefully we're all a little bit more chilled out, including me. Okay. So what is spirituality? I feel like that is a term that gets thrown around a lot, and it kind of loses its meaning when everyone is talking about it. So we understand spirituality as sort of a mechanism for accessing something beyond ourselves, something transcendental, some sort of higher power, essentially experiences beyond ourselves and beyond our bodies here on earth. For me, spirituality is about finding meaning, finding purpose, finding something worthy and special and renewing when life is really challenging. And as we know, the cancer experience can be exceptionally challenging. So spirituality can help provide comfort during those difficult times. So I want to clear up what is spirituality and what is religion, because these are terms that tend to intersect. Both spirituality and religion are valid and important, and I don't want to minimize either experience. So we're just going to talk about some similarities and some differences. So spirituality is deeply personal, right? It's how do I find meaning in my life? How do I feel connected to something greater than myself? And how should I live? What are my values that come from my spiritual beliefs that lead me? And some folks find that in religion, not everyone, right? but some people do. And religion is more of practices, right? It's more about our religious texts. It's more about the religious environment that we grew up in, where we attend services, um, the tradition that guides us to finding spiritual meaning. Um, so that might look like going to church on Sunday, right? Whereas spirituality for some people might look like going out into nature on a walk or meditating. These are both spirituality and religion are spiritual experiences. It's just different ways of accessing. Um, and they have some commonalities, right? So both spirituality and religion involve some of the same things. Both of them can bring us comfort. Both of them involve belief of some kind in something greater than ourselves. They both involve reflection and awe and what is right and wrong. Um, One way that I like to look about this is thinking about my own experiences, right? So I haven't always been religious. I didn't grow up that way. So when I was younger and I saw something beautiful like a sunset, something that inspired me, I experienced it a little bit differently than I do now. So let's say someone who is spiritual but not religious goes out and they see a gorgeous, gorgeous sunset. It just stops them in their tracks. They feel rounded, they feel like small, they feel just really good, and it's making them reflect on how beautiful the world is. That's awe, and it's a kind of spirituality. But if I go out and I see a beautiful sunset tonight, I might think, wow, thank you, God. I really needed this today. This is so lovely. And that's religious awe. So you can experience them both ways. Any questions so far? Yeah.
Can you be spiritual and then still have like religious beliefs, but you feel more spiritual than, because I was brought up real religious and now I think I'm more spiritual, but I still have a lot of the stuff I was taught.
Yeah, you can absolutely be both. And I would even reframe it as like everyone can be spiritual. Not everyone is religious, but everyone who is religious is spiritual. They intersect in that way. So you can absolutely be both. And I think you're also free to define that however you want to, whether you tell people you're religious or you're spiritual or a mixture of the two is totally up to you. Any other questions? All right, so now we're getting into some of the clinical nitty-gritty. I am not a clinician. I'm not a doctor. I want to say that right now. So take that with a grain of salt here. But I would say, generally speaking, most physicians are focused on your biological care, your physical needs, right? So let's say the impact chemotherapy has on you is something a physician might address. They would give you chemotherapy in the first place, and thank God for that. But there's a gap in care, right? When we're so focused on our bodies, we miss a lot because we're not just our bodies. We are so much more than our bodies. So the biological is really important. Don't want to discount that, but I like to focus on it from the biopsychosocial spiritual model. It's a comprehensive view of the person. So as I said, physicians generally tend to focus on biological experiences and treating those needs. Sometimes they'll focus on the psychological as well. You know, for example, if you're experiencing depression, you might be able to get antidepressants from your physician. And we're grateful for that. But there's also the spiritual and social component of your care, especially when you're going through a really challenging illness like cancer. And so, what does that look like, right? I've got it written out here. I don't want to repeat it back to you verbatim. You can check it out if you'd like. But um, when I think of psychological needs, especially concerning the cancer experience, we're talking about like um, chemo brain, right? Scanxiety, um, those anxious, sort of like foggy feelings that come with cancer. When we're looking at social stuff, we might be considering how a caregiver is feeling going through the cancer experience, how a person with cancer and their condition is impacting their family, right? That's another really big one. Or their marriage, their children. The social impact can be significant. And then there's the spiritual component of the model. Um, and I'll go into this a bit further in just a moment, but generally we're talking about the search for meaning, transcendental connection, that sort of higher power in our lives, whatever that might be. Okay. So I want to talk a little bit about the benefits of being spiritually well. Um, I find that when I'm spiritually well, I tend to have more hope in the world. I tend to feel generally better about the way the world is going. That can be a little hard right now.
Yeah.
Um, but we have more reasons to look for the good when we're spiritually well. We might have a better understanding of the people around us. We might have a greater desire to connect with those people and trust those people and welcome them into our lives. Not only to receive support during a challenging time, but to give it. And then comfort as well. I know for me personally, my spiritual experience involves religion. So when I need spiritual comfort, I go to God, I pray. That's not what it looks like for everyone, but that's what it looks like for me. And that brings me comfort. So I want to pose a question to you all. What does spiritual wellness look like for you when you are feeling really good, really connected, and hopeful? How does that manifest in your life? And this is for folks on Zoom as well, if you'd like to chime in. Yeah,
I talk to people
yeah, talking to
and get
people.
involved and engage with others.
And what does talking to people and engaging with them do for you?
Connection and compassion, because I can learn from them and from myself and the dialogue what we're both experiencing. And I need that because I can't be, I keep trying to limit myself and do things on my own and have my own experiences and not share. But I'm very limited when I do that. And when I at least talk to other people and I get their experience, then I have something to kind of interact with in my own self and with others.
Right. Yeah. I'm glad you spoke to that. I feel like isolation, especially when you're experiencing such a challenging illness, is just not the way to go. But, you know, often we find ourselves almost wanting that isolation, wanting to be alone. I don't want to talk to anyone. I don't want to bring them into my mess right now. But when we have that spiritually healthy perception and desire to reach out, I think everyone benefits, especially us. So thank you for sharing.
And Winnie also shared through the chat peacefulness.
A good one.
Yeah, I feel like there's a special type of contentment that comes from being spiritually well and engaging in spiritual matters, for sure.
Mine is sort of like hers, but also like aware of blessings rather than focus on, oh, poor me. It's more like, aware of how fortunate I actually am.
Yeah, that really resonates with me too. I find that when I'm doing spiritually well, I'm more likely to like just notice a pretty flower, be thankful for the nice weather, things that seem small but aren't. And we might otherwise miss them if we're so inwardly focused.
Yeah.
Okay, so how cancer impacts spirituality? I'm really just touching on this because the impact can be so profound. But one of the things I think of is something called spiritual distress. So this is a way of saying that there's been a disruption or a rift or a disconnect in our beliefs and values as a result of the cancer experience. We might find ourselves asking questions like, why would God do this? Why is this happening to me? What did I do to deserve this? Is God listening? Is this karma? Is this because I was mean to my husband in the divorce?
Yeah.
You know, we start searching for meaning in ways that can feel harmful, distressing. We start ruminating on the cause or the source of our suffering. And so often we turn that inward in really harmful ways. Spiritual distress can cause hopelessness and anger, disconnection, isolation, like you were saying. Um, and it is a profoundly impactful and harmful thing to go through, but it's also very common. Spiritual distress is not at all unusual. And not only when you're experiencing cancer, but really any tough thing can cause spiritual distress. I would say one of the most challenging components of spiritual distress is that we're asking questions that don't really have answers. These questions are not like math problems, right? I know that 2 + 2 = 4 because I can put 4 balls out and see them right in front of me. The answer is very clear. But when you're saying, why would God do this? We don't know. I can't claim to know. I would never tell you why God would allow for someone to have cancer. That's something we all wrestle with. But unfortunately, there's no concrete answer. And I think the fact that there's really no answer to these questions is what leads us to so much distress. Distress and, frankly, inappropriate levels of self-blame. Because sometimes things just happen, and that's really hard to accept. Before I move on, does anyone have an experience with spiritual distress that they'd like to share or talk about?
When my dad was diagnosed 30+ years ago, not so much myself, but watching my mom go through this, she questioned and she's, why did God allow this to happen? Weren't we good people? So it was really a rough time for my mom. And then after we lost dad to his diagnosis, it was probably over a year, more than a year, before she was able to climb her way out of that grief. But yeah, I've seen somebody going through that.
Mhm. And what do you think was helpful in climbing out of that immeasurable grief?
Oh, she participated in the grief support group, which is, I'm a social worker, so a huge proponent of those. But she journaled for over a year. She had notebooks upon notebooks upon notebooks of just journaling and getting all of that out. So she was able to process through her journaling.
Yeah, it sounds a bit like a shift from the sort of harmful processing that can come with spiritual distress to a healthy processing, getting those thoughts out on paper or in a group with other people.
Yeah, and I credit the facilitators of the grief support group she participated in.
Mhm.
They did an awesome job with helping her process that.
Yeah, yeah, I'm glad she had access. Yeah.
I think back then, you said 30 years ago, sort of the mentality was a little different because when you put some of those questions, like I said, I was brought up religious, and if anything happened, it was always like, uh-oh, what did I do? What did I do? So that was sort of the mentality. And when I got cancer, I had pretty much those questions. Now that, I'm on the other side, like my outlook, it was almost a blessing. It like shook me of my outlook is different.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like a shift in outlook can be transformative for the whole experience.
I I am currently experiencing spiritual distress, and have been for like the past couple years. And I get these questions that I wonder why other people have passed away from their illnesses,
Yeah.
and I wonder why should have been me. And I'm I'm coming here, and I've been going to different support groups and trying the writing, the journaling, and I'm feeling like I have a little more hope right now, but I'm still skeptical. Because things feel good, but I know the reality is that I will have another experience that I am uncomfortable or uncertain about. And, it just takes the wind right out of my sails and knocks me back into distress. And
Yeah.
I don't want to live there or respond that way anymore.
Mhm.
I want to
Yeah.
grow.
Absolutely. I feel like when we're experiencing spiritual distress, we're not always in that low place, right? Sometimes we're riding the wave of spiritual distress. We might feel really hopeful one day and just completely down in the dumps the next. I feel like that's really normal. But it's hard when you're in it, when you're actively down in the low to try and come back up again. But I feel like, seeking out that support, doing that journaling is so critical. Right. Any other thoughts or experiences that folks want to share? Okay. If you think of anything, you can always chime in later. All right. So you may be wondering, well, I'm experiencing spiritual distress right now. As you said, what the heck do I do? That's really personal because not all of these options that I put out on the screen are going to work for everybody. We're all so different. But generally, here's what the evidence suggests. Community, as we've said, being with other people, so critical. When we're isolated, it feels like there's no way out of the darkness. We have no one else to look to. And harder still, when we're isolated, we kind of want to keep being that way. We get stuck there. So being able to crawl your way out, um, it's such a struggle, but it's such an important one to find that community with other people. And we're proud to offer some of that community here, but we are not, of course, the only place for you to find it. I always suggest, if you have a hobby, Like say you like reading, finding a book group. The community you find doesn't have to center your diagnosis. You just got to get out and be with people. Or that community may look like a religious institution. It depends on just what works for you personally. And if you haven't explored what works for you personally, I encourage you to just try out a bunch of different things, see what feels right, see what doesn't. All of that information is data on your path to being spiritually well. The next one is mindfulness. We are proud to offer a mindfulness class here, I should note, if anyone is interested. But you can also do this at home. That breathing exercise I started with is an exercise in mindfulness. But one of my favorite ways to practice mindfulness is while I'm eating. Have you ever had a big bowl of chips in front of you and you just like one after the other, after the other, after the other, and then you're halfway through and you're like, wait, I
Where
don't
did they
remember.
go?
Yeah, like I don't remember eating them this quickly. You're halfway through your show and your snack's almost gone.
Yeah.
So I like to be mindful while I'm eating. It can be something as small as like, I got a little candy for Halloween from my kid's basket or whatever else. Eat the food, put it in your mouth, let it sit there. Is this sweet? Is this salty? Is this sour? Explore what you're eating before you swallow it and eat a little bit more slowly. You want to investigate the experience of eating food. That's my favorite mindfulness experience, but I feel like really mindfulness is just about being more present in your life.
If I may put a plug in real quick,
Mhm.
Mike,
Yeah.
we are actually going to be doing a mindful eating class over at Healthy New Albany with Kevin, Kevin Kraska, who does our mindfulness hour, on the first and third Wednesday of the month. He's going to be doing Wednesdays at Healthy New Albany for
Okay.
mindful eating starting in June. So check that out on our website because we're really excited.
Yeah, that wasn't even intentional. We just saw the same wavelength.
It wasn't planned, but when she started talking, I'm like, I can put a
Oh, wow.
plug.
Yeah, great. So that's the benefit of mindfulness. It's just about slowing down and being present. And you can do that really intentionally with things like eating or whatever else works for you. Uh, a friend of mine likes to practice mindfulness in the shower, even. They slowly soap up their loofah, they give it a good scrub, make it bubbly, and then they just make the experience last longer. They focus on the sensation on their skin. You can turn nearly any experience into a mindful one just by slowing down and being present in that moment instead of, frankly, participating in a society that really encourages us to rush, 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 rush,
Yeah.
rush through everything. It's time to slow it down. The next one are talking to spiritual leaders in your life. These can be all sorts of people. For someone, that might be a priest or an imam or a rabbi. For another person, that might be their yoga teacher. There's all different types of spiritual leadership. And I have found that when I am left with feelings of spiritual distress, when I am personally feeling really disconnected from God, like, God, where are you? I look to people who are deeply invested in those relationships, in that kind of study to help bring me back to it. And that's just another part of community. I don't want to sit with this feeling in isolation. So I'm going to go to my friends and I'm going to go to the experts whose judgment I trust. Next one is inspiration, stories, prayers, poems, heck, music, movies, anything that leaves you feeling inspired and comforted and renewed can help you restore a sense of spiritual wellness. That's how we intentionally foster those feelings of awe that I was mentioning earlier, like a beautiful sunset. You know, I can't manifest a beautiful sunset, but I can intentionally choose to put on one of my favorite songs, listen to it all the way through, be really present and mindful, and feel inspired by that song. So, intentionally seeking out inspiration can help you restore some of that wellness. And then, lastly, this one is tricky. This is reflection. I want to point out there's a difference between reflecting and ruminating, right? So, reflecting means that we might be journaling, right? Constructively taking our thoughts out, putting them somewhere else, and processing them. Ruminating is when we're like sitting in bed, staring at the wall, like, God, I can't believe this is happening. Why is this happening? I need to do this. I need to do that. God, and then cycling through those thoughts over and over and over. Because, like we were talking about earlier, with spiritual distress, there's typically no concrete answer to the question, but we keep asking it. So we keep ruminating. So it's good to shift from ruminating on thoughts that can be harmful and bother us and cause us distress to reflecting on them instead. I mentioned journaling up here, but another type of reflection is just talking to a friend. Friends and family are really useful in helping us pull apart these thoughts that are hurting us and helping us find meaning in what's been distressing. So, if that works for you, be sure to include your loved ones in your reflecting. Any thoughts or feelings folks want to share at this point? Or questions? Okay. All right. Now for the plug. Yeah, I had to bring it in. So we do a lot of spiritual care at Cancer Support Community. We don't necessarily call it that, but that's what it is, right? So one of my favorites is we have nature walks. We do those every so often,
Jess is scheduled once a month.
once a month right now, with Jess. Jess is a counselor. She's also our CEO. She is a lovely person, and she is trained to take folks out for these nature walks. It's completely free. You just go out on a hike, and it's very mindful, very grounding, and that's a beautiful way to access spiritual care. You can, of course, do it without us if you'd like. You know, I'd encourage you to take nature walks regularly, just sort of disconnect from our phones and all the horrible news that can be on our phones. And get back to the quiet parts of life. We also offer yoga and Tai Chi, actually several types of yoga at this point. One of my favorites is Yoga Nidra, which I believe a Yoga Nidra session is equivalent to spending some time asleep and how restful it is. If you want to speak on that a little.
Yeah, so with Yoga Nidra, it's guided imagery. So unlike gentle yoga or chair yoga where you're moving, you're seated or lying down for the entire hour. And as Jennifer, the yoga instructor, does a body scan, you move out of the really alert, awake state, but you don't go into the deep sleep state. You're in that middle, kind of awake, kind of asleep. By definition, that part is called yogic sleep. And research shows that 1 hour of yoga nidra class is 4 hours of restorative sleep. And it's also really great for pain management.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And Jennifer does that every Tuesday at 4 o'clock. That is on Zoom, because if a lot of people find it easier to lay on their couch or their bed instead of a yoga mat on our hard floor.
Yeah.
So
We understand. Yeah. So I'd encourage folks to try out yoga or Tai Chi as well. And if for some reason you don't feel comfortable doing that for free with us, it's also on YouTube. There's a lot of great yoga on YouTube. Yeah.
What was the scan then that you mentioned in the yoga?
Well, Jennifer, she just does a body scan. She'll go through different body parts. She'll say left thumb, and so you're focusing on your left
But you
thumb.
can do it at home.
Oh, yeah. Mhm. Yep,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. It's just a verbal, guided imagery. So she'll go
Okay.
through different
Okay, you
parts of the
did some
body.
guided
Yeah, so you're lying there, you're comfortable, you're listening to Jennifer talk, and in your
focus on
mind, you're
something.
following down onto the different body parts.
I've had so many scans, I was thinking. it
Oh,
was
no, 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 no,
medical.
not, it's no,
How can you do that
no,
over
no.
Zoom?
It's a verbal
Oh.
mental scan,
Gotcha.
not a medical scan.
Okay.
Sorry for that
I was,
confusion.
well, no, I
Kristen.
was thinking, how could you do that at home?
Yeah.
Thank you for that clarification.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. That makes more sense than where I was going.
Yeah, so all of these things can technically be done at home, but I'd encourage you, if possible, to do them with someone, with a spouse, your children, your friends, or like I said, with us, and then you have our community, so you're not in isolation. We have a drum circle every Thursday. Sometimes it's here, sometimes it's out in nature at another
Somebody's
location,
backyard.
someone's backyard. But it is a hoot. My office is right over there. We have the drum circle right here. And I just love listening to everybody having a good time. And all the fun that I'm hearing is like, yeah, it's fun, but for a lot of people who come in, it's also a meditative sort of experience, kind of grounding themselves with that music. So if you've never experienced a drum circle before, just try it once.
And Winnie agrees, the drumming circle is wonderful.
Yeah.
If you go once, you will probably want to go again. And then lastly, breathing exercises. We have a morning breathe and stretch that you can join, but also I would encourage you to do breathing exercises even before bed, maybe before you get in the shower. Definitely when you're ruminating on that spiritual distress, because nothing can calm us down and soothe us quite like just breathing. Because the thing is, so often we are not breathing in a way that's relaxing. We aren't really aware even of how we're breathing because we just do it naturally, and thank goodness for that. But I have to catch myself sometimes because I'm like, okay, wait, right? And I think it's important to be able to say, oh, I need to slow it down some. And everybody knows how to breathe, so there's no barrier to access here. You just take a longer in breath, longer out breath, or like with the box breathing I was showing you guys earlier, that's really helpful as well. Just it allows you to pause and to do something we all know how to do. So definitely encourage breathing exercises for that spiritual care. Does anyone want to share either an experience they've had with one of these things, or maybe another type of spiritual care they're doing?
I did the yoga
Yeah.
with Abby, and I've been trying yoga at home with YouTube. And I find I always do the shortest videos, like the 10 or 15 or 20-minute ones. Like
Yeah.
if I see half hour, I'm like, oh no. But I went to a class for a whole hour.
Oh, good.
And I didn't even realize it was a whole hour. It felt much more, it just felt better. And I was with people,
Yeah.
and that really was important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And, like I touched on earlier, I feel like we're just conditioned to rush through everything. It's a very natural inclination to be like, oh, this one's 4 minutes long.
Yes.
I can
Yeah.
streamline my relaxation. But that's not how it works, no matter how much we want it to work. So yeah, I do think that's a benefit of attending an actual class. You kind of need to be there for the whole thing.
Yeah, I guess it was a way to keep me involved and kind of keep me accountable for my practice.
Right.
Because at home I tend to, I'll just stay in Shavasana or Happy Baby. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh no, this pose is way too hard. I'm not doing that.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And it's also nice to be in community with others because then I feel like you have access to encouragement.
Mhm.
Sometimes yoga is hard.
Yeah.
Like on first glance, people might think it looks easy, but there have been moments when I've even struggled with Happy Baby. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh gosh. So it's nice to be with other people who are saying, no, no, good job,
Yeah.
keep trying, right? Thanks for sharing. Yeah.
I took the meditation here and then I use that at home now, and now they're
Okay.
gonna start having it here again every week. But, and the instructor even said, like, when I was doing it at home, it was one way, and then a couple of us said, when we came here, that, it just seemed, it was different doing it here for some reason,
Yeah.
more, like, I think I could, maybe, I don't know if it's called concentrate or what. And she even said, the instructor said that there's like scientific evidence and whatnot that communal like helps you with stuff, you know, so maybe that's how that yoga works too, like when you're here, just having the
Mhm.
community. But it's been real helpful because I do it at home, and
Mm.
I'm looking forward to coming in once a week just to, you know, it seemed like more beneficial somehow.
Yeah, yeah, I think that makes sense. And I've heard something similar about drumming. There's something about being around others doing this activity where, I don't know if you all believe in this sort of thing, but it's almost like synced energies. We're all in the sort of same spiritual place. I think there's something really powerful in that.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Any other thoughts or comments? All right, so I have some discussion questions. It's not a pop quiz. It's not that serious. But I just want to make sure we're all engaged and getting something good out of this. So, wanted to ask folks, what does spirituality mean to you? What is your spiritual experience like? I know this is personal, so you can share whatever you want to share. But, I'm curious about what the spiritual experience is like for you as individuals. Yeah.
And I'm excited about this question because I kind of just did a little exercise on it, like what it is, what this looks like, and we did a drawing. And so I drew a picture of the Buddha
Yeah.
because that's what I would like to see myself looking like, is the Buddha.
Yeah.
He's always peaceful and happy, and he doesn't care if he's gained a little weight.
Yeah.
So I drew the Buddha, and around the Buddha, I drew a group of people for community. I drew a book for reading and writing and journaling. I drew a little cluster of fruits and veggies, looked like a tree with like berries hanging off of it for nutrition and good eating. And then the last thing I drew was a little person like in motion, and it looked like he was swimming because I'm motion. I want to be in motion and physically active. So that was my little spiritual uh drawing of what I think it looks like. And
For you.
yeah, for me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that's
good.
great. I never thought about drawing it out. I love that.
Yeah.
I wish we'd answered more questions with drawing.
Well, Lynn added in the chat that it's connection with the higher power to achieve serenity and peace.
That's a good one.
Yeah, Lynn, that really resonates with me, as a religious person. I like knowing that for me, I can just bow my head and make that connection literally anytime. Anytime. I feel like there's such power in that, and it brings me a lot of comfort, for sure. Thanks for sharing, Lynn. Anybody else want to share what spirituality means to you or what you gain from it?
And when he says, when he says, for me, it's being at peace with God, contentment, with the world around me, knowing I don't have to agree with everyone.
Yeah, that's so powerful. And I like what you said about, knowing that you don't have to agree with everyone. I feel like, especially with social media, we're really into like the doom scrolling, right? Like, oh, I can't believe someone commented this. I can't believe someone commented that. I am guilty of it myself. It bothers me.
Well, and there's also that mindset, unfortunately, that I've seen in the world the past couple years, that if you don't agree with me, then you're an evil, rotten person. When did that
Yeah.
become acceptable behavior? Being able to disagree with somebody is a healthy thing, but
Yeah.
the world's mindset now is if you don't agree with what I believe in or what I think, then you're horrible, and I don't, that's not,
Right.
it's not healthy.
Right. I agree. And I also just think it really cements the importance of putting our phones down. Yeah. I like that I can turn my phone off and just go for a walk out in nature, and all that's around me is nature and not opinions. Um, but yeah, for sure. Thanks for sharing. What gives you hope? This is a very challenging, heavy question for a lot of people. Um, but I want to explore this. I feel like hope is critical to the spiritual experience.
Absolutely.
So, what gives you hope?
This place is giving me a lot of new hope.
Oh, good.
Yeah, yeah. Abby Dorn told me about this place, and I came yesterday, and now you're probably gonna have a hard time getting rid of me. I'd like to volunteer now as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
This is what we hope for.
That's good.
Yeah.
Winnie says, her faith gives her hope.
Oh, that's
Mhm.
wonderful. Wonderful. I feel like sometimes our faith can be a source of spiritual distress. It can compound that spiritual distress, but it can also be a source of renewal for us. Knowing that there's something greater than us, whatever it may be, can give us hope. Yeah.
Yeah, when I'm going through like a tough spot, I've had so many miracles or whatever you want to call them, that now I'm to the point where it's like, I just got to ride this out. Just figure out how to ride this out, because there's going to be light on the other side, where I didn't used to be good at doing that.
Right. It's definitely a skill. I think I wasn't always good at this, but now I like to just give things to God. Like, I have this worry. I don't know what to do with it. I don't think there's a solution for this worry right now, but it's so hard to sit with.
Yeah.
I just, here, I don't want it anymore.
Yeah.
I give it to God. I let God worry about it so I don't have to.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. That gives me hope, gives me relief.
I like going out and doing yard work too. I don't know if that gives you hope, but it distracts me, or and there's always something to do in the yard. So, but
Right.
it just takes my mind off everything. Then when I come back in, sometimes it'll be, why was that even bothering me?
Yeah, it's almost like doing something really mindful like that, just being focused on the
reset,
soil. Yeah,
yeah.
it's a reset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I can get myself into a tizzy very easily.
Mm. Me too.
Me too.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on hope? Okay. And then lastly, I'm just wondering if there's a prayer, a poem, a story that you'd all like to share, that maybe we can draw some inspiration from or some contentment from. I added my own there, Psalm 34:18, which is, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted. He rescues those whose spirits are crushed." This has been a mantra for me. When I'm really going through it, I will just repeat it over and over and over again until I feel like it's sunken in. Um, does anyone have something they'd like to share? Even if it's just the title, you don't have to read the poem if you don't have it.
I don't have like a poem or a prayer. I mean, I do. There are a lot of things that just came to mind.
Yeah.
But I read a book recently that had a couple stories in it about two different people, two different situations, but both were basically facing like, well, you know, this is basically the end of your life. You don't have much longer to live. Now you're in this situation and then you're probably not going to get out of it. But both of the people did not take that for an answer. Both people sought different ways of treating themselves. One was spending time in nature. And the other was like activity, getting involved,
Yeah.
positive thinking. And both of the people, you know, even one who had cancer and had only 7 months to live, ended up living 7 years
Wow.
Oh,
because of the changes that they made for
And their
themselves.
mind and
Yeah,
stuff. Yeah.
yeah,
I've
they
heard of
overcame the
that.
problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like having that healthy, spiritually well mindset can be so transformative.
Yeah, because I think stress is a really, really bad thing. Or can do really, really bad things to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, sometimes there's the good kind of stress.
Yeah.
Help us run away from a lion or like
Yeah.
Yeah.
get out of a burning car, but we don't need that all the time. Right. Any other thoughts to share or prayers? Anything like that?
I'm trying to think of the verse. I don't have the source, but it's the verse of casting your cares upon the Lord because he'll sustain you.
I
She's
get-
like, just give it all to him because of I can't carry it.
Right, exactly. Some things are too heavy to carry. You have to give them away or at least put it down for a while. Well, that is all I had. I want to allow just a moment for any questions, thoughts, or feelings that maybe we didn't get to. If someone wants to share anything or ask anything. Okay.
I was just gonna say, Izzy, I greatly appreciate you putting this together and giving this presentation because of, we do a wonderful job of providing that psychosocial support for as people going through their journey, but not really addressing or acknowledging that the spirituality is such a huge component of everything we do. And I love that you brought that to the forefront because of, I've been here 6 years and never looked at it that way. So I appreciate you opening my eyes to say, this is, really beneficial in more ways than I thought.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very true.
I appreciate that. Yeah. All right. We're going to do a closing exercise. Literally grounding with our feet. So if you are at home, you can take your shoes off if you'd like. I don't even care if you do it here.
That's right.
Totally fine. So we're going to start by just placing our feet firmly on the ground. We're so often walking. How often are we feeling with our feet? We're not being present in the act of feeling with our feet. So feel your feet on the ground. What does it feel like? Do a little step, Be present on the ground. Now, I'll ask you to wiggle your toes. Feel how it feels to wiggle your toes, even if those toes are in your shoes. I want you wiggling. Okay. Now, if you're comfortable, I would ask you to either close your eyes or maybe just look down because I'm gonna make you imagine some things. Now, Take a deep breath. And I want you to picture yourself as a tree. I want you to imagine one by one, root by root, growing from your feet to the ground below you. Your roots, like a tree, connect you to the ground. I want you to imagine how those roots might feel in the ground below you. Maybe it feels cool. Maybe the soil is wet. We know it's been raining. Or maybe it's a little drier than you expected, and the soil's nice and warm. I want you to imagine those feelings. Think about what it might feel like for the soil to touch your roots. And then just sit with that feeling for a moment. That feeling of connection to the earth. And now, slowly, one by one, I want you to pull those roots back up into your feet, knowing that you can grow them anytime you like. One by one, bring the roots back to you out of that soil. And when the roots are back in your feet, wiggle your toes one more time. Feel your feet as they are on the floor. Take one more deep breath. Open your eyes and come back to the room. We often talk about grounding. You can do it in a literal sense if you'd like, either with imagining it like this or going out in nature, preferably with your bare feet, and just giving it a feel. All right. So throughout this presentation, I've been asking you all if you have questions, and I've loved them so far, but you might find that given the subject matter, you have questions later, right? You might sit with this and think, oh, I missed my opportunity. You did not. Feel welcome to send me an email, give me a call. If for some reason you lose track of my contact info, it is on our website. So just know I am here for you. If I don't have an answer to your theology questions, I probably know someone who does. So feel free to reach out. And thank you all.
Thank you,
Thank
Izzy.
you.
And Winnie says, thank you all for providing a community of support and caring.
Thanks for participating, Winnie. All right, y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.